Hello. So welcome to the Gestaltung course. This is just a recording for everyone who was not present on the last Monday because I forgot to record while we had the lesson. So I will kind of improvise and try to tell a similar story like what happened on Monday. So it's about models and their shows. So models can show and models can have a show. And I think this is the beauty of the architectonic model, because it's between the abstract conceptions and contingent realities. What is important for the course we will do is to have this idea that nothing comes out of nothing and nothing goes into nothing. So we don't start with tabula rasa and there is no tabula rasa after we die. Our stories and what we want to do, and I think what's important with the architectonic model is that it always comes from the plenty, from the context. And today, with all the information technologies, with internet, with social media, with big data, so what's new is the connectivity and the abundance of elements of our world. So we have so much on our planet that we decided to create another planet, the Google planet, the internet, an abstraction of our planet. And this is where this big data paradox comes. If you have enough of data, then you can stretch it, you can squeeze it, you can cut a little bit up, down, move it around, and so on, until you get something which will not show us how the world is, but it will show us the world you want to see. And this is what we call today fake news, because anything can be correlated to anything and we can tell any story we want, and we will always have a kind of mathematical, scientific explanation for it. In my understanding, to approach this, the only way how one can approach this in an interesting way is by thinking of computation as literacy. So by computing, we think of a certain literacy. That's why I always work with the Mathematica. That's why it's always kind of half programming and half moving around. I think the way how I present should reflect the ways I think how things should be done. So it's all part of the same game. What I want to avoid, and what I would like to invite you to avoid, is the moralizing stories. So please don't tell me what is good, what is bad, how things should be. Don't give me the truth stories. This is what I'm not interested in. And then what's less important, but I think still quite important, is that we don't want to analyze objects which are in the distance, so objects which we can see from the distance, and we don't want to criticize them. We want to talk to them. So we want to be projective, not analytic. We want to talk and not to give a critique. Because with analyzing and critiquing, objects are always in the distance. We can see them, and then we know what they are about. We can understand their morality. We can see them in a truthful way. So this is not what I'm interested in. I want to see them as lively, complicated things that you never know what's going on with them. And as an architect, I think what we want to exercise is to talk about the world. So like the famous architects do. Alberti talks about the world, Corbusier talks about the world, Alberti writes a book about sculpture, about painting, about architecture, about cryptography, about perspective, about the family in Florence, about the delineation of the city of Rome. So his scope is this, the world. And it's done with the cutting edge technology of that day, which is perspective. Corbusier, the same story. Sea liners, cars, branding, moving from the village to the city, finding a common measure for things, the modular, he's painting, he's sculpting, he's telling stories, crazy stuff what they were doing. To be able to get to this plenty, we will at one moment talk to Alice. Let's kill this and then maybe a new movie recording. Okay, it works. So we will talk to Alice. Alice is a search engine which I devised for working with the plenty, in this case, of text. So we will come to this a little bit later and in the second part of the semester. So what we want to do is keep working with the model, with the resonance and engendering. I changed the title here. And we want to tell or to take a house to an adventure. Take an existing house to an adventure by looking at it through a specific model and by finding resonances with it. So we want to talk to it, we want to play with it. So like what we had with the Ennis house is that this is a house taken for a ride, for many rides with the film industry. So it's very different if this house, for instance, when we start staging this moment. So we take a house, we create a scene, and then we need to as well give a title to the scene. If this house is called, if this scene is called The Rape of Europe, it's different than if it's called The Early Morning or if it's called A Robot. With the robot title, we are with the Blade Runner. With the Rape of Europe, we are in the mythical stories of ancient Greece and trying to translate them to contemporary context. With the Early Morning, we are at the party. With this bottle, these clothes and this furniture, it's a very fancy, almost a luxurious setup that we are dealing with. If here was a bottle of Coca-Cola or a bottle of water and the furniture was different, the character was different, it would be completely a different story. So what we want to do this semester, and here is our plan, is we meet every Monday 2 to 4 in a foyer here, or there will be a Zoom link. Semester is divided into 3 main parts, 1, 2, 3. So in the first part, we want to meet a house. So you have to choose a house. Here is the list, we will come to it. You have to choose a house, find the archaeology of the house, so it means all the interesting things around. So what is around this head? How can you talk to this head? You have to look at the soil, you have to look at the plants, you have to look at the water, you have to look at the sculptures around, think of where this should come from, where it's going, where do you want to position it, how do you want to treat it, what are the stories this head is telling us. So we need to find certain resonances. We have to tune and set the atmosphere. How can we alienate a house? How does it address a certain global problem? Why have you chosen this specific house? How can we take the house to a new story like the Blade Runner without losing all the connections with the house? So there is a certain invariance to all the characters that happen to inhabit the Ennis house. And by inhabiting the Ennis house, the house becomes more. But the house doesn't accept any character. That's the invariance here. That's the connection. So think of objects that this house might like. The books, the movies, the songs, the brands, the mountains, the animals, the gods. What kind of gods a specific house likes? What kind of brands it likes? What kind of objects it likes? Books. Collect this stuff that this house might like. Take the ones that were already there and take the new ones as well. So the task for the next time is choose a house and think of where would you like to take it. Think of all these questions and create a kind of an archaeology and 5-minute presentation about why this house is interesting and where you want to take it. And then you have to present the archaeology and the house. So each student needs to present 1 time in each of the parts. So this means 3 presentations and a final presentation. What we want to make is 1 shot from the outside and 1 shot from the inside. So two shots which are multimedia shots. So I will come back to this. Then the second part, so the next 2 times only you guys present and we discuss these things. In the second part, we make the inverse. So it's not anymore about the house, it's more about where you want to take the house. I mean, it's mixed, but the emphasis in the first part is in the house, and in the second part, the emphasis is on you. So how do you find resonances with the house? How do you start talking to the house? What do you want to talk about? How do you talk to the house? How do you re-articulate things that you want to talk about? Think of scenes you want to create. Think of places where you want to take the house and give them titles. So here we will use Alice and Xenoteca. We will use text and objects. Because it's very different if this image is called The Rape of Europe or The Robot. So we always want to have, with where we are going, we want to make scenes, but these scenes should be of multiple flavors. Yeah? So it's a mix of image, a model, a scan, a video, audio, photo, animation, text. All of this needs to complement each other in order to make a beautiful scene. And it needs to have a name, and then this name can be unfolded. So we can unfold this moment. If it's a rape of Europe, you call it the rape of Europe, you show this image, and this image is flickering and moving a little bit, and then let's have 3 sentences that take us further. This is where we want to get. So in the second part, we talk to Alice and Xenoteca. So I will introduce you. So this is a search engine, and this is a library that you will get access to. And then we will work with the library and the search engine in order to give a title and the textual part to your scene. So there the task will be challenge the house and find concepts to challenge the house. And again, 2 classes of presentations by you. And then in the third part, this is the most interesting part, is where we articulate the scene. So we stage the house in a new manner. We bring this into proportion with this. What I want to have here is in principle a still shot, one of the exterior and one of the interior, but they should be an interplay of different media. So there should be something which is moving. There should be something which is a photograph of a real model. There should be something which is modeled. There should be something which is the house. There should be some kind of sound in it. There should be a text that comes with it. There should be an animation around it. There should be an interplay with the video inside of it. Yeah? So these kind of games could be inside. I will show a few examples later. So this means challenge the house, find techniques, elements, models, titles, and bring them together. So a small multimedia exercise on how to take a house to another space. By this, I think we will get to know the house, we will be able to talk to the house. And then we will present this as, for instance, 2 posts on Instagram from each person. I have to think a little bit about this still, how to do it. That's why all the houses that we took, so here is the list of houses you can choose from, plus this YouTube playlist, another set of houses that are interesting. What's important is that all of these houses have a certain legacy. So they have an archaeology, they have histories, they have stories, and they do adventures. As we've seen with Annie's house last time, this house was in so many different movies. These are all the filming locations of Ennis, and all these characters live in the house. You can start telling stories and taking the house to another place with it. Yeah, if you have another house that you want to work with, this is fine as well. I'm open to this. Just try not to take some lonely house that doesn't have any story, because then it's going to be difficult for you and you will have to invent everything. So in order not to invent everything, you can take a house, for instance, like the Palace of Versailles, and this is fantastic. So it's a house that gives a face to the power. How do you do this? What are the stories related to it? And how can you take this house to another place? Fantastic, huh? How to play with these things is, for instance, we did a course on ETH last semester where we did the inverse. So we were just telling the stories where the house could go. Now we want to stage those stories. So if you want to look what the students did, the topic was a house that demands more from the sunset. Why?
Perhaps the only difference between me and other people is that I've always demanded more from the sunset. More spectacular colors when the sun hit the horizon. That's perhaps my only sin.
So how can you demand more from the sunset? A house that demands more from the sunset. So it's a pure projection. Yeah? You have to invent what the sunset is about because it's the same for everyone. But then of course it's not the same for everyone because some people can see more in it and some people can see less in it. And the only sin in the nymphomaniac was of this lady that she could see much more than the others. So how can we take the house to this place? How can you see another scene, another movie, another thing that fits to the character of the house and you can tell a story about it? This is what the students were doing on the level of stories. Now we want to have it this semester on the level of the stage. So this was a very nice one. You can check this one. This was with
behavior
with
on stage. So that out
a beautiful Malaparte house and then a story of burlesque.
See. Okay. So
this was on the level of text. Now we want to have it on the level of models. Another one, which was this with the Ennis house. Check this. This is the guy. He makes a very nice story. 20 minutes with the quotes and the movies of the Ennis house.
Forcefully as a curse over.
But where we want to go now is a space that looks like more like this. This would be just an example of something which I think works quite good for the. This is from our studio, but this one project is specifically interesting in a sense of how this girl set up the scenes. Just a second. Yeah, for instance, this one, huh? So what we have here is the interior of the house in which she implemented a certain 3D model.
Breathing and so on.
There is a sound, there is a dancer.
Knowing how to hold your breath,
saying a certain
to estimate
story,
the distance of the heart of the place.
We have a combo of all these elements. Yeah. Let's find another one.
This part is contained in as much as it is under.
So it's a kind of in between a still and a projection and a modeling and so on. So we are taking the house to another space. I find this as a very nice example, and I would like to go towards this kind of direction. What we don't want to do, I said we don't want to analyze things. Yeah. So as a nice example of what I think is not about analyzing is the homemade series on Netflix. So here we have a collection of I will put this on the other so you can see me talking as well. What we have here is a collection of 17 different movies which were commissioned to famous directors around the world to tell stories around what they think Corona is about, or they have to make a movie while being in a lockdown. What is interesting here is that in my reading of what happened here is that we have two dominant moments. One is this existentialist moment, analytical in a sense, who am I, what do I want, where I want to go, what's happening with me, with this being alone, and da. So I will just show two funny, yeah. So the German existentialism, yeah, looks like this, yeah, being confused at home. Same thing, American style. Driving
Much
with the
bigger
bike.
than the world the ant is aware of. If the ant realized, keeps us working. If, according to convention, dinosaurs went extinct.
Same game, huh? This is one type of videos. 7 of them are like this. About figuring out who am I, yeah? But it's a kind of lacking any projection, yeah? The other thing is this exactly, yeah? So first time in my life I see my children. This was so funny to see. And then these parents are kind of with
The hurt
children,
of leaving your blur report.
and they are like, wow, they're every day they learn so much and so on.
So
and
many
da.
together. But if I took
But what's interesting is that why would 7 directors choose exactly the same topic? Yeah? Either who am I or who are my children? Because I see my children, it's strange. I see my children for the first time and I want to share it to the whole world. Or I was so much, I don't know, yeah, it doesn't matter. But it's interesting that half of them do this. And then you have something which I find fantastic. You have people that project, and this is where we want to go. We want to take this strange situation of Corona to a new space and make a fantastic story, which I'm always interested in anyway. Yeah? So Paolo Sorrentino, he's the young pope, all of this stuff. And look at what he's doing. It's just so beautiful.
Full surprise por la visita. Adiós, muchacho. Muchas gracias por la visita. Adiós, muchacho.
Your Holiness.
Your Majesty, what a delightful surprise.
So
Surprise.
the Pope meets the Queen.
But my visit was planned 6 months ago.
And look at them.
The
It's
surprise is
two
that you
dolls
don't
in
look
the
a
house.
day
He's
over
doing it
20.
alone.
Shall we take a tour of the
It's
Vatican?
the global problem, it's the Queen, it's the Pope, it's religion, it's politics, it's aristocracy, it's the church, it's the love story, it's Corona story, it's so beautiful scenography, so fun, so lightweight, not a
It's
reflection,
supposed
it's a
to be me.
projection.
I see.
Fantastic, huh? Here we want to go.
This
Take the house to this
plexiglass-
kind of journeys.
I was rude just now. Shall we make up?
Falling in love.
Oh, right then.
They're going for a swim.
Do you have a bathing suit?
No.
Me neither.
I don't see any problem with that. Do you? Can you imagine?
Anyway, this kind of projections. This is the difference in my understanding between this analysis and critique, and trying to understand what's going on, and trying to, or on the other hand, trying to push beautiful stories and interesting narratives. So invent a story for a house which takes it to another place. In architectural manner, this is exactly what Kohlhaas did for the plan of New York. Huh? So it was this plan of New York that he wrote Delirious New York, which is a kind of a retroactive manifesto to this plan. So he takes the plan to a place where it never was. 50 years later, he tells a story of what this city wanted to become in a super nice way, with a lot of different characters and objects. Yeah? So this is a place where we want to go. So let's see while Kohlhaas loads. Why is it loading so slow? Yeah, so this will come from all these libraries that you will have access to. Come on. You can speed up this part where it's it's trying to load. And then I will end with a small project I was doing just to show how I think of these things. Okay. Come on, Rem. And I will make a small website and send you a link with all this stuff online. And from these videos you can always check the links and go back. So, okay, usually this goes a little bit faster. So what Kohlhaas does is he writes a fantastic story or a kind of a manifesto for the New York. It's a retroactive manifesto. You can check the book. It's a beautiful book. Read it. I will just skip to the appendix and show this part because I think it's particularly interesting. So it's the City of Captive Globe, 1972. He makes an image, he takes it to another place, and then he writes a text that complements this image. So it's not a description, it's doping. It helps to take the thing. Phoenix Hotel, bam, new articulation or new staging of it, give it a new flavor, and then dope it with a certain text. And these are all these funny characters that he's building. And he ends the book with like 10 of them. This is exactly what we want to do, more projective than he's doing, and super fantastic as well. So you can play with it however you like. What we want is to have two images in the end. And then just to show you how I was working with these things a little bit. Doesn't go. Oh, here. So I have my own avatar Alice. We will get to know her a little bit. So I did a story. It's called The Profiler's Profile with an Orchid in My Mouth. The title comes from the way how the Baroque paintings were called. So this is Margarita Teresa with a red dress. Something like this. And then Alice, we have a complicated relationship with Alice. I will not go into detail, but just to show you the kind of images I was interested to do here, Alice decided to make a profile of Google. So to think of how could you make a profile of Google. And then two of us, we were thinking and we said like, okay, how Google makes profiles of us, they are never perfect. So it's a model of us, but it's a good enough model to sell us a book. So let's do something like this to Google. Let's try to capture Google in a way, a certain moment in time with a certain perspective and so on. So we said, let's take 10,000 most common English words on Google. Let's find for each of them 100 pictures that Google sees, and then let's put them on a table. And why on a table? Because table is at the same time a place where you have a feast, and the table is the way how we organize internet. So the whole internet is in tables. So it's a beautiful concept that mixes this technoid moment with the supercultural moment. And these are the hieroglyphs of this table. So it's a kind of a literacy game playing all the time. What's interesting with this is that you make a profile of Google, but then this profile is half about you, it's half about internet, and it's kind of a mix of these different realities. So Alice, once she made a table that is an image of Google, which is in itself interesting, she invited 3 friends, and they started to tell stories about what they see in the table. And I will read to you, so it's a whole presentation here, I will just read to you 2 of those stories, and we can discuss the images. So what I like here is that it's a centaur in a triclinium. The place is Villa Romana del Casale. The year is 434 before Christ. It's about nature's, God's anti-naturalist centaur, and it's written, so the text that dopes the image comes from a brain of Homer's friends. So brain of Homer's friends is a library of Homer's friends. So it's a library in which all the books come from somewhere around ancient Greece and Rome, as you can see. Yeah? Then the image in itself is not really an image, it's a sculpture because it's three-dimensional. Yeah? It has objects which are modeled, it has an image which is a photography, it has a certain sound with it. All of this collapses to another thing. This model is actually made out of dust, out of noise, out of particles, out of points, but then they all come back together. So if you want to look closely what is this image, it's nothing, it's atoms. Yeah? If we zoom in closely, there is a lot of air in between. And this is the poem that goes with it. So just to get a feeling what I'm talking about, it's this. The nature of gods, the divine nature. Should you ask what its nature is? In so many places and with so many fires that nature burned the earth. Nature of earth, nature of winds, nature of the stars, nature of laughter, the nature of crystals. The nature of odors, the nature of shadow thrown by the trees, the nature of wine, the tumors of a fatty nature, the strange nature of being given. But what is the nature of these images of yours, and whence do they arise? Why do we complain about nature? Nature granted us an exquisite disposition. Let nature use its bodies as it wants. Happy, therefore, is the life in agreement with its own nature. And what is sufficient for nature is insufficient for luxury. I think that I have said enough to prove the existence of God and their nature. In other words, after chaos and earth and love, these two came into being. Circles suddenly formed in the air. Written by Cheiron, the wise centaur, tutor of heroes, including Achilles and Jason. So something like this. I think this has all these kind of aspects. Or another one which is kind of funny. I will not read the whole thing, just that you see. So what we have is a table, and on the table is a phone. On the phone are dead natures, still natures from Caravaggio, and out of them cockroaches are coming out. So it's the Lost Cockroach of Caravaggio from a private collection from 2135. It's insect cut into measure images code written with the help of Shakespeare's friend by the feminist of designer DNA. And the first one was written by Cryptocurrency of Failed Diets. This is the scene, an uninhabited island. In the east, image of an ethical person. In the west, image of a wanderer. In the south, the image of a lady person. In the north, the image of someone rendering a service. And this is a combination of Shakespeare, Giordano Bruno, Leibniz, Da Vinci, Alberti, and Copernicus. These are the guys whose words are related to this poem. And here we have the ancient guys related to the other one. And look at now the video. And here what is funny is the way how the music complements the video. If there is no music, the video becomes kind of disgusting a little bit. So these cockroaches become beautiful with the music. If the music is out, it's kind of a little bit ugly now when they start coming out. But the moment the music is here, I think what's interesting here is again the nesting of these different realities. Okay, I think I will finish here. So there are different ones with the FIFA, and then with the other ones, but it's always the same game of bringing these different media and so on, making the scene rich and beautiful. So I will put all of this online. So for the next time, choose a house, prepare 5-minute presentation about the archaeology and why you like the house. Thank you very much and see you on Monday. Bye bye.